life. And I'm like, to not be afraid, to live my life for me, to leave something behind that my kids are going to be proud of.
Think about all those things that had to happen for this moment to happen, right? And even just right here, for all of us to be sitting at this table.
Right.
I mean, that's amazing.
All right, guys. Hey, what's up? It is Monte. I'm back here with the It's Your Neighbor podcast, episode number 6. To my left, I got my co-host, Anthony Alvarado. What's up, Anthony?
Guys? How you doing?
All right.
It's good to be back. You know, second episode of this new year, 2024. Let's go.
It's been phenomenal. This has been fun. Like every time we just have juice in the office. I love Tuesdays.
We have juice.
Tuesdays is juice day. We have all of our agents in. Everybody's ready to go. They're excited.
Yes.
Off to a new week.
So we're interviewing neighbors. Who we're interviewing this
today?
one?
We got a special one.
Mess that one up.
So this is, you guys will find out about this a little bit. But today, Ashley Maas is joining us for many reasons.
Yes.
And we're going to get into our story and how we met in a little bit. But Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So yes, very grateful to see where this conversation leads us, and hopefully somebody can gain some inspiration, some feedback, all the things.
I think it'll be part inspirational and based on what I see on all of your social medias, probably a little entertaining as well.
Yes.
Right. It should be fun. You're so damn goofy on half of those
Tons
videos.
of energy, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So,
it's
good.
It's
it's phenomenal because you at this point have had quite a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our story gets into it probably a little bit into your journey. But tell us like a little bit about what you're doing right now. Like what businesses are you running? What are some things that you're doing?
So some of the things that I have been super passionate and I would say laser focused on is this story is probably going to come in full circle moments. Like this is what it's about. So
it's crazy. Anthony got to witness some of this stuff.
Truly crazy.
Yeah.
But right now, what I'm really focusing on is bringing together the community in new and different ways and bridging the gap between what we have seen in terms of personal development, what it means to be on this track and trajectory of becoming a better version of yourself, the best version of yourself, bridging the gap between what people in our community are doing. So I started a business not knowing I was going to start a business, and it kind of just went from there.
Sometimes that's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
That happens.
Just following the flow, and here I am.
So what is the business that you're running?
So I run something called Rise Up Experiences. It is based out of Northeast Wisconsin, Green Bay. It was born actually in De Pere, Wisconsin at the Exchange. Shout out to the Exchange.
Shout out.
And what we do is we run events, conferences, mostly historically speaking, it has been geared towards women. Women on the path of just rediscovering themselves through motherhood and through some pretty life-changing transformational experiences, breakthroughs, and we do retreats. I'm a breathwork facilitator, so many different avenues that I've stumbled in doing this. So.
What's a breathwork facilitator? What the hell is that?
Breathwork facilitator. Okay. So being a breathwork facilitator, what I do is I help individuals kind of break through their subconscious mind. So if you think of like our routine, our everyday life, from the moment you wake up, the habits that you're involved in, everything that you're doing on a daily basis, most of us live on autopilot and we find ourselves having these huge goals. So think about New Year's resolutions, the goals that we stick to or create on January 1st, most of the time we don't do them. We aren't accomplishing the goals, and these come from much deeper rooted issues from our past, holding attachments to past experiences. So with breath work, to make a long story short, we're getting into the body and learning where these stories come from and redefining the neurological pathways that happen in the brain.
Yeah. How did you get to that? Like, what was it that was like, breath work is an important part? Like, is this a meditation thing that you kind of transformed into, or how did you become that? How did you get there?
So I struggle with meditation, like with if you think about meditation, most people think that you have to sit and you have to, have your hands crossed or your feet crossed and you're just sitting there and all the thoughts kind of come through. I was struggling to kind of turn those thoughts off. So for me, I needed something to actively that I could be in control of. And I learned that through regulating my breath and being in control of the breath, I was able to get outside of my mind and actively be a witness to my meditation. So my meditation just looks different. It's through breath work.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because I've been meditating for almost daily for about 6 years or so.
Yeah.
Roughly. And, standard meditation, doing a guided meditation to begin with. But I resonate with that. When I first started meditating, if you know me, I tend to be moving and going all the time.
Yep.
Right. And I think my brain is always on. And as I had a hard time sleeping. So meditation was a form to help to tackle some of the biggest, most difficult things in my life, whether it's grief, stress, anxiety, depression. I did specific guided meditations on those to help, get through some of those challenges. But man, it was hard to sit down and get to a point where it took me 90 days to get to a point where I could finish the first 30 days. And that was sitting for 3 minutes or less. I just couldn't do it. Now over time and through discipline and through practice and incorporating other breath work, because I even had my first breath work experience actually, this last year with you, you know what I mean? So that was amazing. And being able to use what I've done in meditation to kind of just layer that in for health and wellness has been a great journey.
That's awesome.
So keep on doing it.
You know what? One thing that's really cool is I learned about meditation from a wrestling coach when I was in 7th and 8th grade. And he would have us sit in a locker room and he would make it completely dark. And then we just thought about like what our match was. And I was really good. I think that was a huge part of it. Physically it's one thing to go out and wrestle, but it's another thing to be able to mentally be able to take a guy down and beat him. And that was such a 5 minutes of just sitting in the dark when nobody was talking before cell phones and all that other stuff was really, really good. So that was the first time I ever learned about how powerful meditation could be. And sometimes I revert back to that, but most of my meditation is when I'm driving. It's probably not the best way to do it, but that's
eyes closed, deep breathing.
Or I just sit in the shower with the shower head, beating on.
Well, let's remember, meditation can also extend to visual, audio. Right. So there's more.
You find something that works for you.
Yeah,
that's
it works.
what works for you.
For right now.
Yeah.
For right now. I'm sure it would be much more powerful if I locked myself into a room.
Yeah, if you weren't driving.
And I wasn't driving. Yeah. I don't recommend meditating while you're driving. It's not like I'm doing breath work and closing my eyes while I'm driving. It's just I'm in my thoughts. I turn the radio off and I think and that kind of thing.
You sit with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with myself right now. Well, you guys are sitting with me too, so it's weird.
So Rise Up Experiences, Ashley, you work with so many great people, right? So you do conferences, retreats. You have these events and you're engaging with, like you said, mostly women. Is there anything that has popped up or that you keep on coming back to that's like, man, that was such a special experience working with that person or these people? Because I think about the work that I've done with young people, for example, and I know the testimonies that come through. It might be something simple. Hey, you spoke in my community years ago. Listen to your message. And now today I'm getting in recovery for the first time. Thank you so much for that message of hope. I'm sure you have things like this doing this type of intentional work. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like every day is a lesson, every day is an experience. And what I'm finding, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. And for the first time in my life, I truly feel what it means to be grateful in terms of in the moments where it felt extremely difficult or it felt like, why am I doing all of this? Or what is this all for? You're so in your head because you're not seeing an immediate reward or immediate transformation because we live in a microwave society, let's be honest, okay?
Right.
And we want results right now. And one of the things that I've learned is being consistent in my own practice and really being mindful of the energy I give to myself and put out there is going to attract the people that are meant to be in my life, which is why I truly am sitting in this space right now, is because I feel when I led with this energy of gratitude and just always reflecting back to the moments, even though they might have been painful at the time, there was always a lesson and a blessing in that. And I followed those little nudges. And one of the biggest things that I have felt very rewarding lately is just seeing how me being transparent and vulnerable about about honestly
Yeah.
the shit that I've gone through. We all go through things.
Yeah.
And
Right.
at the end of the day, one of the things I'm learning is it doesn't really necessarily matter. We attach meaning and we give so much meaning to things that honestly are the greatest things in our lives. So in that, lately I've received a lot of messages on, you opening up about being yourself and just being so goofy and dancing on camera and showing up in these bold outfits on stage, doing what you want to do. It just inspires me to be more me.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like for you. And I never knew that's where I was going to go. And I'm glad.
So
I'm here.
you're past the fear of judgment part of it.
There's still judgment that comes up.
For sure.
However, I have to remind myself one thing I do regularly, and this might go along with meditation, is I think about my life when I'm 80 years old. And I ask the 80-year-old version of me. I literally have a conversation with this woman, right?
I love it.
And I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
does this moment actually matter to the how much
Yep.
Like
my
you're really
life
gonna
is
look back at it.
Yeah, and you're like, does it really actually matter? No, stop fucking worrying about it. It's not a big deal. Like, move on with your life.
That's how your 80-year-old self talks.
Yeah, she's like, just get over it. Like, we're here, focus on last breath. Like, be happy.
You're not gonna be thinking about this.
You're not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So it's just a check-in.
So that
with
person who
myself.
cut you off, maybe that bad text message,
Yeah, no, it
maybe
doesn't
that
matter.
breakup.
Yeah,
I mean, who
in
knows?
the moment, sure,
Sure,
it
big.
matters. However, whatever you give attention to, it expands. We all know this, so just letting it go.
Where did this all start with you? And maybe that's how we get into
that's what
our
I'm
story.
wondering. Like, how did you even get to this point where you're doing this
Right. Like,
intentional work?
when
It had
did
to
it
start somewhere,
When did that
right?
begin? Like, was it around the time that I first met you, or was it like slightly before that, or when did this all happen?
So the explosion, as I like to call it, where it blew up in my face, was around the time that I met you. I was leading a life of a lot of repeated patterns, a lot of crap that I was carrying from my past. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a human being. There are moments where I get wrapped up in my past and I got to check myself, or my partner's got to check me, or people that I love got to check me.
Those are good friends, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
The
for
ones that
sure.
aren't,
We'll
like-
probably check each other at some
Yeah.
point, right?
We're already checking each other.
Yeah, we're checking each other.
Exactly. So at that time in my life, I was going through one of the biggest transitions of my life, and I was moving from a space that was very comfortable to me that I had known into the complete unknown, surrendering to whatever was meant for me. My life blew up in my face, and it blew up in a really not so fun way at the time. And during that time, I never thought that I would be able to get out of it. And I had to trust people I did not know to help get me on path of where I am today. Surrendering to the fear of judgment, of being told no, rejection, abandonment, all these feelings that I didn't know I had came up at that point in my life.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we've gone through this. You and I have finally, like, what's so cool is, and again, we'll get into our story, but a few years ago, I made a decision that was not a good business decision, but it was the right moral decision. And we'll talk about that. And I'm like, you being here is the most validating, maybe one of the most validating things that I ever did to do that. And you talked earlier about like being patient and just know you're doing the right things and not knowing when that's going to come back full circle. So maybe before I talk about my side of the real estate thing, which is fun and all, but talk about like what was going on at that time in your life. And then up until that point where like you submitted the offer, or your dad submitted the offer, like let's maybe talk a little bit about that. And then I'll go over to my side and then we'll kind of tie it all together.
So I feel that this story really begins, a long time ago, and we could go into like every single avenue, but truly 2018 was a time in my life where I kind of had this line in the sand moment. My kids were about a year old at that time, and I was not facing things that I needed to face in terms of, certain situations. I placed a lot of blame on the people in my life for being stuck or not being where I wanted to be, versus looking in the mirror and saying, hey, like, sister, this is you. You chose this man. You made the decisions that led you on this path. So 2018 was really the time I started to learn about the things that we've talked about now. And obviously we know what happened during COVID 2020. The world kind of shut down. People were working from home. My husband at the time was working out of state, and we decided that we were just not a good fit for each other. We kind of fulfilled our purpose together in our lifetime in terms of bringing 3 really great kids into the world. And I decided that having no job, no money, being about a year into my business, having zero, right? Like
Yeah.
negative. We'll be honest. It was negative.
It was negative.
A lot. Okay. We decided we're just not going to be together. And we mutually made this decision, and things kind of snowballed into an array of things that we were both ignoring internally. Both of us expressed emotions that were not always healthy. And long story short, I was put in a position where I had to move quite quickly. At that time, I was looking at rentals. I was getting rejected constantly. I heard no, like it was a part of my everyday life. Like, no, you don't have the income. You don't have this. You don't have the background. And it came to a point where I asked my dad for support, who lived in a different state. I couldn't qualify for a loan on my own. If I did, it was like crazy amount of interest, and there was no way that I would be able to afford that as a single mom. And finally asked my dad, he said yes. It was the first yes I had heard in a long time. And we started the process of finding a home. If you know anything about real estate at that time, you know that what it was like. Interest rates were super low. People were buying homes left and right. You would put in an offer. If you didn't decide, within 30 minutes, it was gone. And I remember seeing this home on School Lane, like pop up on Facebook. Somebody sent it to me, and I remember going in with my realtor, and I just felt like this is my house. It was the first house that I walked into, and I could visualize like my kids playing in the backyard. It was beautiful. It has so much land, so much property. It was like right by everything that I needed it to be, outside of where I was living, and just someplace I could start over. And I said, I don't know what it's going to take to make this place my home, but I'm going to do it. And we submitted an offer, and it ended up being Monte's home that he was selling. And he accepted the offer. So that was like an exciting thing for me. And things started to happen. I started to feel like, oh my gosh, like this is so great. Like it's all happening. Like everything's great. Surrender. Thank you, God. Whoop, And again, like that was the time where everything kind of just blew up in my face. And one day I was getting ready to, there was a lot of things that happened, but one of the things that really stands out to me is I was getting ready to speak in Kentucky at a conference, women's empowerment conference. And I was days away from speaking at this thing, getting ready. And I go, and I'm living at my old house at the time, which we're getting ready to list. And something happens between me and my ex-husband that forces me to kind of surrender control completely. And you'll see that's a common theme here. Surrendering, into the unknown, and doing hard shit. Yeah. Okay. So I called my realtor, and I said, hey, I can't go back home. I'm going to Kentucky this weekend. I'm either going to live in a shelter for a little bit, and I'm okay with that, or I need you to talk to Monte and just explain this is what happened. And she reached out to him, full transparency, told him what happened. And I got a call maybe within 2 hours and said, when you get home, just grab a suitcase, come here, you have a place to stay.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I have, I guess, and I'll go backwards on this. This house is like meant so much to me in multiple ways. And really Ashley's part of it means more now than it did at the time. But for me, it was my start in getting short-term rentals going. And it was an accidental short-term rental. So, we fall in.
So accidental.
No, it was certainly an accidental one. So what happened was at the time, another girl, Ashley, had called me about her brother in a situation, and he needed to sell the house, like quickly, like something happened in his family. He was getting another house and whatever. So anyway, I went and met her brother. The house was in pretty rough shape. And basically I just bailed him out of a bad situation. I assumed his mortgage and went in, flipped the house. Shout out to MGB Construction, Adam View, awesome dude, but really did a great job. Within about a month. I think we put a deadline on it in a month, and he put everything into it, got it done. I gave him a relatively small budget for flipping a house too, and just made it into what it was at the time. Well, we went to sell it, and I had you'll find out in real estate, there's good agents and there's bad agents. Well, I had an agent submit an offer. It was not a good one. Knowing what I know now, I never would have accepted the offer in the first place, but it put me in a bind and set me back. And so now I'm, fresh into my real estate investing career. It's 2019. I have 2 houses that are vacant that aren't selling. This is before all the COVID stuff really happened. And I started posting it on Facebook, and lo and behold, a lady down in Appleton, her name's Laura Ritchie, wrote in with her, as like a knight in shining armor for me, and basically asked me if she could rent the house. She's a corporate rental. She had all of her units filled, and she had a corporation that wanted to rent it out. Great, I thought, except for I am literally down to no money. I have nothing in my bank account at this point to be able to furnish it. So she goes, well, I can pay you substantial money. And I'm like, how much were you talking? She goes, like $3,300 a month for this place. I'm like, for a 170-year-old farmhouse?
Sure.
I'm like, awesome. Like, great. So I'm like, well, the only problem is you're going to pay me $3,300. I still don't have like the $8,000 to $10,000 I need to furnish it. So I'm starting to think of like, oh, I'm going to go grab all the furniture out of my house. I'll just make sure we have like 2 chairs so we can watch TV and, a bed and all that other stuff. And she pulled another magic trick out of her hat and got the corporation to pay 3 months in rent, 3 months in advance.
Cool.
So I got a $10,000 check. I'm like, I can furnish this now. I can probably hang on to holding costs, all those things, right? So that lease agreement went for a while. But again, my other house wasn't selling. It was still vacant. And so basically I was robbing Peter to pay Paul in all of this. And so I was still at like very little money going through all of this. So at that point is when we got to the end, and I'm like, I had to list it. I'm like, I had other people wanting to rent it. As Ashley knows, it's a funny side story, which we don't need to get into, but she had a bunch of people just show up at her house one day after she moved in.
That's amazing.
And it's kind of cool. It ties in very interestingly with who she is and what she's capable of doing, but it was so weird. So anyway, what ended up happening then was I didn't know Ashley at this time. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't even know she was really that involved. I knew there was a female purchasing the house and her dad was the co-signer. That's about as much as I knew. But when Emily, her agent, gave me a call and said, hey, we need to push closing out a month. This girl needs to move to, I think she said she was going to move by your dad or something in Minnesota. But she said, this girl needs to do this. And I'm like, no. Like in my head, I'm like, she didn't tell me that part of it. She's like, we just need to push closing out a month. And I'm like, no, like that's a terrible, all the contingencies are met. Like closing's in 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm going to need a little more context to like accept any of this, because I'm not going to do it. I didn't want to relist it either, but like my business mind came out. And then Emily said, okay, let me call her and find and explain what's going on. And so she called me back at that time and told me what Ashley had just said, is like, she's in a really bad situation. And basically what I said is, does he know where she's going to live? And she said, no. And I said, move her in now. Like that was it. So I'm like, we'll figure out all the other shit later on. And she made it right. Ashley was great. But like, that was that point where it was like, I'm down to my last dollar, like I'm this, entrepreneur guy that's, trying to get out there and try to do the right things. And I could have easily said, fuck that. And everybody would have been, yeah, you made the right call. It's a business decision, whatever, you'll understand. And I'm like, something told me, and maybe it was the way Emily had sold it to me or whatever, but it was the right thing to do. Even in a tough situation for me, it was still the right thing to do. And I had no regrets, like we got to talk a little bit after that, and I never like got into any of that personal stuff that she was going through. I just knew like she was in a really bad spot. She needed a little bit of leeway, and we just made it happen. Yeah. And so that's where we got to. But since then, we've kind of all gotten pretty good at doing things in life. So that's the story between her and I, at least up until that point. And then she moved in, and then we would just, share pleasantries here and there, and be like, oh man, you like really did a great job on. I would see all of her stuff on social media. The funny story was, and all of it was, I had made an agreement with a local farmer who was bringing in immigrant workers, and Ashley was already moved in. And I told the guy, like, they have such ridiculous restrictions for like how a house should be. Like, the corporate rental company didn't care. And the immigrant worker thing, they wanted me to add like a ladder to the upstairs windows. And if a screen was missing, it would have been $1,000 fine. And I'm like, no, like, sorry, I'm not going to risk any of this stuff. So that also worked out in her favor, because I wouldn't have listed the house if it was still making me that kind of money. So all the things in the world, whether you want to talk about religion or energy or whatever, meant for us to come together at that point. And it was so cool. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks in, all of a sudden Ashley calls me. He's like, hey, oh no, we were moving furniture out. My godson and I were moving furniture out. And this white van pulls up with, 8 immigrant workers coming out of it. Not one of them speaks any English. And I'm like, I knew that you were bilingual, but then I find out she's really bilingual, like fluently bilingual. And so she goes over there and just like, we start mediating and go, nope, you don't live here. Sorry, bro. You guys gotta, I don't know where it is. So I had to call the guy who was doing that. I'm like, where do you, oh no, they're living in a house in Green Bay. They got the wrong address. I'm like, well, they picked the wrong address because it was exactly the one they would have moved into. So anyway, so it was funny, but yeah, she came out of nowhere and was like, here's Spanish. I'm like, holy shit, there's Spanish.
Think about all those things that had to happen for this moment to happen, right? And even just right here, for all of us to be sitting at this table.
Right.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, the fact that you found this home, what does that mean to you today?
There aren't enough words in the world to talk about or to even say what that moment means to me. It is a memory that I will hold until the day I die. And it's a story that will be told to my kids and hopefully their kids, and it gets passed on in that way. It was such a pivotal moment in my life that I feel that kind of restored my faith in humanity, my faith in God, my faith in myself and like my abilities as a human being. And just, I think sometimes we get
men maybe a little bit.
Yeah, especially then. I feel
thanks.
It did. It really did. And I just, there's a lot of things that I feel about that moment, but it did change my life for the better. And that's why I feel it's kind of led me here. I just kept following the signs.
Yeah. Which is cool. And I think like the coolest part for me is, again, it was a simple act, right? Like I had a house. She was in a bad situation. I could have made a bad decision. I made the right decision because of it was just the right thing to do. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in this world of, hey, we got to make a good business decision. You got to make a good business decision. In the long run, it was a great business decision. We'll explain that shortly too. But like I had no intention other than just doing the right thing for her at that moment. And I had the ability to do it. And so I think the lesson is in all of this for everybody that listens to this podcast is sometimes the right decision isn't the easy decision, but if your gut tells you it's the right decision, do it.
Yeah.
And you may not know if it's right or not. She could have just flaked on me and left, but Emily did a great job. And again, it was like, holy shit, she's in a really bad spot. Let's just make her life better today. That's all I cared about, was just her life being better that day. It wasn't like, I don't know, I can't control the rest of her life, but that day it was. And then the amount of people like you taking that and then doing what you do now to like be able to empower so many people, like for me, that's like the most validating thing like I probably ever did. And I will never make another decision of money over people because of that situation ever again. So
there's a big lesson in that, putting people first, and like you said, there's this idea of community that's happening in this conversation, right? It's not just an idea. It's like literally what it means to support each other, to be there for each other, to be a neighbor and to maybe help somebody out when they're at the greatest moment of their life of need, right? The greatest need of their life. And so that's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. And again, it could have just been a one-day thing. She moved in. We knew each other for a month, and then all of a sudden,
you could have never talked again, and here you are.
We really didn't.
Just doing wild things and
just
sitting
liked
down.
each other's posts every once in a while.
Yeah, every now and then. Hey,
Monte.
You go, girl. You're killing it. Oh, I love what you did to the house. That door that you put on the garage looks amazing. You did a great job with the exterior. That was the main reason I couldn't sell it, because the exterior sucked, but I was out of budget, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. She
Fixed
fixed
it.
it.
Let's
She
go.
made it look great. But anyway, this was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're sitting here again, like paths just keep crossing.
Mhm.
You show up, you're in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mhm.
all of the things that you do with that
We
are
start
amazing.
crossing paths.
Mhm.
And then you guys cross paths. And then one day, tongue in cheek,
We're like, oh, we all know each other.
I'm like, we know each other. I told you a little bit about that story. And you're like, oh, I'm going to see Ashley this weekend. I'm like, all right, cool. Tell her I said hi, great things.
Yeah.
Also, what was the other line I said?
Well, you should talk to her about real estate, yada, yada, yada. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to talk to her about real estate for sure. And then we were doing breath work, and I totally forgot about real estate.
He didn't talk to her
conversation.
at all about real estate.
But we talked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just hung out. And then guess what happened?
I get a message.
You wanted to talk about real estate.
No, and then I get a message like 2 days later, and she's like, you know what? Everything just keeps drawing me back to have a conversation with you. Can I come in and talk to you?
Yeah.
It wasn't even it was just a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the weird stuff happened that day too. Like all the stuff in the past, like combined, it was like this ball of energy sitting around. You were sitting there
Like,
watching
you
it
guys
going,
need to be
what the
together
hell?
doing something.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happened that day?
That day?
Yeah. When you came in.
Oh my God. So that day, it is so crazy because, you follow the synchronicities or whatever you want, the signs.
Yes, the signs.
You don't ignore them. You don't ignore your gut or your intuition, your heart, what your heart tells you to do. Okay. Repeat that over and over again. Don't ignore it. Follow the signs. And I came and I sat down in your office and I was talking to Anthony, and it's so crazy how we got connected and just all. Even the agents that work here being connected to moms of like people that have been a part of my experience. It's just crazy. I'm like, this is an energy vortex and I just feel trapped. Like
we were both surfing that day. We were surfing the energy wave.
And I think the cherry on top for me was just, listening to Macklemore on the way here. I was listening to the song Glorious, and freaking Anthony was like, oh yeah, I know Ben. Like Ben, yeah. And then Monte,
I did photos at his concert. No big deal.
Yeah.
He's a great
Macklemore.
recovery advocate. He's
Yeah,
amazing.
he truly is.
He
And
really
then,
is.
Monte points to this sign behind him, and it was the lyrics to the song Glorious. And I'm like, I shit you not, look at my phone.
I was playing on the way here.
She did. She
I
recited
flipped
a
over.
line from the actual lyric that's on there, not prompted or anything. And all I did was go, and then she turned around and she goes, shut the F up.
Yeah.
The lyrics are on the wall?
Yeah, the
Like-
lyrics are on the wall. This is so crazy. So he asked me, Monty's like, what do you want? What do you want in your life? And I'm like, to not be afraid, to live my life for me, to leave something behind that my kids are going to be proud of, that they don't have to struggle or they don't have to do the things that the things that all parents want for their kids is to just live a better life. Be happy. I want to be happy. That's what I said. I just want to be happy. And live off of this higher vibration and keep attracting these kinds of experiences into my life. And he goes, so you want to get into real estate?
That's how my voice sounds?
Hold on a second.
Hold on.
They got it.
I gotta, that is not how I sound.
he's like, so you got $100?
It was 152.
Yeah, you got $152. You want to get into real estate? And I'm like, sure.
Sure, let's go.
He's
I'm
like,
really
"Do you wanna-"
disappointed. That's
Yeah.
how my sales pitch
He
sounded
goes,
to you.
do you want to think about it, or do you just like want to sleep on it? And I'm like, no.
No,
Like
this
this
is
feels
it.
like a yes for me.
You have the lyrics on the wall.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, she's like, you got the lyrics.
it's
The
a
writing's
yes
on the
for
wall.
me.
Let's go.
I'm like,
I mean, you have the lyrics on the wall.
yeah, truly, like, it is. But for me, it was like
This is great.
I wanted to learn more about how to make a bigger impact in my own life. And I feel like there's such knowledge in understanding real estate. If you guys have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he kept pointing to it. And I'm like, I've had this book for like freaking 5 years.
Yeah.
I've never read it. Then listen to it every single day when I was
Robert,
sleeping.
let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's such power and knowledge in learning about real estate and being able to use my gifts, my superpowers of being bilingual and helping bridge that gap in the community. It kind of just ties everything together.
Yeah.
So I was like, hell yeah, I'm learning about real estate. Yes, I want to learn about supporting people in these avenues. And more importantly, if I could help spread the message of what happened between us in terms of like putting yourself out there, asking for support, and seeing how you can truly change the trajectory of your life when you just believe in yourself so much, I'm going to do that for other people.
Mhm.
So it was a yes for me
Yeah,
that day.
she didn't. She's like, okay, you only get the credit card.
Yeah, here's my card.
So yeah, so shameless plug. If you want to become an agent, you don't have to pay the $400 fee. We have a broker's club. You can become a real estate agent for $152 by going through us.
And 19 cents.
Or something like that. You might be right.
Like
that,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
It might be that. So, but yeah, no, like it was such a cool day to like, one, just to be able to like go back. Okay, we remember 3 years ago and be able to tie that all together and then have that. And now we have this budding friendship and the amount of impact that you're going to be able to make on the community. Like you're already such a huge impactful person and you've changed so many lives. And now you're going to be able to like take that tenfold and be able to tie in like not only the emotional aspect, but start getting into the real estate financial aspect and maybe even make a huger impact for people out there, which is going to be so awesome. And then, help the Hispanic community too. That doesn't have the
support,
the bridge, the gap, right? Like to bridge the gap for the language barrier that some of them may take. So I'm super pumped for you. I guess that's kind of the announcement, right? Like,
yeah. So yeah, I decided that day that I was going to add real estate agent into my toolbox of things that I implement. And what I want to say about Take Action too is this is something that real estate scared the crap out of me for a long time because you have a perception on agents. You have a perception on it being like this money grab and
Commission
people
breath.
are out. Exactly. People are just after, the next paycheck or the next big thing. And Monte has changed my entire perspective on what it means to be a real estate agent as well as an investor. And when it came to Take Action, one of the yes moments for me is, first of all, their freaking logo. The full circle. Hello. Yes. Okay. The circle moments and
Jackie Garris with a cheap plug there.
Yeah. And,
Yes,
and just
great.
their mission and how much they give back to their community. When you buy a home or when you come into the world of Take Action Real Estate, you're not just buying a home, you're buying a community. You're buying a place where you can grow and facilitate changes in your life. And with all of the talents and the people that you have here, you've got the coaching, you've got your VIP club, the moving truck, it's more than that. You are helping people feel like they're a part of something, like they belong to something.
Right.
Which, if you're listening to this, at how many times in your life you've just wanted to belong to something, somewhere. That's this place. And so, yeah, duh. It was a for me.
It was a yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for saying all that. That's been the big goal for me. One, when we started was I could go be a real estate broker and do the exact same thing as everybody else and do okay. Or I can try to change the way that it is. And again, I might be the dumbest guy in the room for doing it completely different because everybody else has been successful doing it the same way. But you know what? I'm going to try to do it the right way. I'm going to try to do it the way that I feel. And I'm going to bring more value, bring more community, and just bring like a togetherness and a family of what we're doing here. And again, not every real estate agent is going to be able to work for us. It's not something that you have to be able to buy into that togetherness and that culture that we have here, because we've worked really, really hard at creating it. I mean, we've gone as far as to having business coaches and mental health coaches that work here as well. I wouldn't say work here, but partner with us. Throughout this. Anthony is trained, you're trained. Like we're trying to make sure that the people that are here are going to be empowered much further past the house. We're into building the community. Real estate is the way that we're going to fund it, but we're building a community to get us to where, everybody can be involved. And we're going to throw some kick-ass parties. Macklemore's on the bucket list. I don't know how much he costs,
he's coming.
But he's coming to Lambo.
You heard it here first. Matt Lamar
right?
will be.
We can try to work out something.
Here. We'll figure something out down the road with him. But I'm serious. Like that's
might as well. I mean, honestly, I think it's great to see us building on exactly what we started to kind of etch out 6 months ago. Like literally the things that you just said are things that we're just like, man, it'd be so great. We just create a space that people felt like they belong, they're a part of, they feel supported, they feel like they can grow. And it's more of a journey, together, right? And literally helping to pick each other up when we're down. And that happened from the very beginning of your relationship. And that's the culture here, right?
Yeah.
Is supporting each other. And that's really cool. So what are you excited about? I mean, this year is big for you then, right? I mean, you're now with us, you've got your obviously rise up experiences. I mean, what are you super pumped about this year? I mean, you probably hardly sleep at night now.
I sleep.
Oh.
I sleep great. Okay. I've got killer dreams. They're great. Not like the bad ones, the good ones. So I feel just being able to integrate everything that I've learned and all of the knowledge that I've gained and just learning more every single day. Like you were talking about the mental health and the coaches that you're working with. I met with one last night. Blew my damn mind. But it is so.
Yeah, let's go.
It shows me how I can do all of these things and do them together and feel really great about it, because my core values is community. It is to help people and make them feel seen, heard, and understood. And being able to bridge the gaps in a lot of ways where people kind of feel like they're failing a little bit sometimes, and encouraging them to try new and different things. That's what I'm excited about. And implementing and using real estate as a tool is like, this is how you get to grow in your financial goals. Or maybe it's just meeting new people, making those connections, and you never know where those connections are going to lead.
And you may be in a situation that we were in at some point.
Oh, karma. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And you're going to do the right thing because it happened before. So, no, that's awesome. So let's kind of flip it now. You know, you're still the guest, so you got to ask us questions. We do that on every single podcast.
Yeah. So,
and we don't even prep you for it.
We don't prep you for it.
We don't even tell people. It could be anything too, by the way.
I'm fully aware.
I'm fully aware. You're about to get it. You shouldn't open up these questions.
Oh no, here we go.
Are going. I guess the biggest question I have for you is when you're 80 years old and you're looking back at everything that you did in your life, what do you want to reflect on most? I would say, like, what keeps you going?
So it's interesting when you brought up the 80-year-old thing, because I listen to enough Gary Vee, as everybody knows. So he's kind of the guy that retrained my brain a little bit. And there was two things that he had said early when I started watching him. This is part of the reason why I started working out again. It's part of the reason why I'm in this role, which 5 years ago when I, became a real estate agent and I was sitting at the gym, after I decided to go work out, and Bill Sims was like, you're going to be a great real estate agent. And then here I am, 5 years later, sitting in this chair, hosting a podcast, and
a beautiful building.
And
awesome
got
team.
a great building, and, 14 or 15 or however many people we have now that either represent our brand or work for us. It's humbling for one, but like, I think the one thing that I learned, going back to your question, was Gary Vee said, go to a nursing home and ask them about their life. And most of them will tell you that they wish they did something.
Yeah.
So my grandmas at the time weren't in a nursing home, but I went and had a conversation with my grandmas. And the first thing they said was, I wish I would have did this, and I wish I would have did that. So for me, my 80-year-old self tells me, are you going to regret not doing that? And that was a big thing. It's not, are you going to regret doing it? Are you going to regret not doing it? Are you going to regret, like, what if I had that experience? What if I did this? What if I did that? And then if I start feeling like, oh shit, like, I really wish I would have did that. I don't want to be that person that's, 90 years old and whoever hopefully still comes to visit me, because we're going to live to like we're 130 now with medical technologies anyway.
Right?
So I don't want to be that person that sits around and goes, my life was all right, but I really wish I would have did something else, or I wish I would have did this. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be from taking that point 5 years ago and going, okay, now I'm in this spot. Now, of course, there's things I could have did way different, but I don't regret anything now from 5 years ago to where I am. I mean, other than some small little piddly things that happen day to day that maybe you see you don't handle the right way in the moment, kind of things. But long term, like if you're looking out like the little blinks of time, I have no regrets right now. Like, I'm totally excited about this. And like, the other thing about this business is it's not just my business anymore. It's our business. Because you're going to have your own business. I have my business. You're part of my business, but it's also your business. So that's the biggest thing for me. Anthony, what about you?
I always think about, every time I hear something like this, I think of a couple of different things. Number one, people aren't going to remember you for the car that you drove, the house that you had, the things that you wore necessarily. Yeah, you might be remembered for the style that you had, but they're going to remember how you treated people.
Yep.
And so I'm always thinking, like when I'm reflecting back in my life, not only do I want to make sure that I had experienced the experiences I wanted to experience, right? But I also wanted to go ahead and make sure that I treated people well along the way, right? And because I think what that does in these moments, I think my role is to inspire. So I want to inspire people every single day, even in the subtle acts of kindness and the things that I do. And that's what I do for work, what I do at home, what I do, as a person. And so I think also of my grandmother as well, which is funny that you mentioned this. My great-grandmother, she's turning 95 this year, I think it is. And she runs around like she's 75, right? And she literally does not seem to slow down whatsoever. And I ask her, like, what is the trick, right? What's the deal here? And she's like, look, I just keep it moving, right? Yeah. And she's kind of a little badass, but she's at the same time, she's always around family. She's always going out and doing something. And she didn't stop just because she was getting older. I remember she was mowing the grass and, shoveling and doing all the things. In other words, she didn't slow down for life just because she was slowing down because she was getting older. In fact, she just kept on going out and doing the thing. And because of that, everybody talks about how special she is and how amazing she is. And I thought that's a pretty great example to live by.
Well, hey, guys, that wraps this up for the episode number 6, It's Your Neighbor podcast. Yes. Obviously, very special one. We're so pumped to have Ashley here. Welcome to the team. Yes. Well, congratulations on everything that you've done and the impact that you've made as well is incredible. And it's fun watching your journey and like how you can be so real and goofy and still make that impact. And you see all the other people that are, even people that that I know and all that stuff. So kudos to you. Great job.
Yeah. You too.
So with that being said, how do people get a hold of you? What do you got coming up? Is there anything you want to like kind of name drop a little bit before you're out? You know what I'm talking about.
What are we pitching?
Yeah. So in the community, if you're in Northeast Wisconsin, obviously if you are listening to this, you probably are. So we have a conference coming up this summer in June. It's called the Rise Together Conference, which
so weird. I know.
Last week we did a Rise Together podcast.
I know. There's so much synergy. Truly, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Everybody's rising though.
Yeah. So
we're on the rise.
This one's super, super special though, because it's the first one that we're opening up to both men and women. So anybody can come if you're on the path of healing, growth, self-development. If you want to learn more about real estate, we're literally tying in all of these full circle moments into this conference.
I get to talk there.
Yeah. Monte will be there sharing a little bit about real estate and also just his baby, his passion project, what he's been creating here too.
A little baby over here.
Little baby. Yeah. So if you want to stay connected, you can follow me. The best way is honestly Instagram at Ash Rise Up Experiences, or visit riseupexperiences.co. You can always see what we have going on, retreats, events, local, out of state, anywhere.
All right.
So
what about real estate?
Real estate? Where are they going to connect with me in real estate? Yeah. Honestly, probably Instagram.
Yeah,
probably. Instagram's the best place because that's where I post all my things and stories. Yes. So if you want to connect, you can message me there and I can connect you to the right people or myself. I will say, if you're bilingual, you probably won't know what I'm saying. But if you know somebody who's looking and does speak Spanish, I would say send them my way. I would love to help them in that capacity.
Yep. Even though you're not licensed yet, we can still help them out. She'll be licensed very shortly, probably by the time this gets out.
Before me, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
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 Way before you.
I'm the marketing guy. I'm trying.
No, you got enough things going on. We'll let it slide at this point. So awesome stuff. Well, Ashley, thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I love you both.
Little air hug.
There it is. So that's it, guys, for this week. Next week, we are going to do, might be back.
Ladies takeover. Let's go. So,
ladies.
Monty's going to be out.
I'm going on vacation tomorrow morning.
Yeah, good for
you. It's going
to
be controlled chaos.
Yeah. Also, hey, shout out to Hydrovita if I didn't do that yet.
Yeah.
For a great job in getting me back. You can hear I'm nasally. Yesterday, I was a pile of turds.
Yeah, you look better today.
A massive pile. Just heaping
pile of turds.
And Melissa Allen fixed me up yesterday. So
yes,
Hydrovita, thank you. That'll be It's Your Neighbor, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. She's a neighbor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Ashley. Thank you, guys. Give us a like, follow, all that stuff, the things. Thumbs up. We're doing. What are we doing?